of the Shari'i rulings and especially the rulings of inheritance. Now, more importantly, today we're going to focus on the practical side. Okay, so after an individual passes away, after someone passes away, what's the first steps we need to take and what are the correct steps we need to take, especially with regards to the estate of the deceased. And when I say estate, estate means everything which is left behind by the deceased. तो मय्यत का तरका यानी मय्यत जब मर जाता है तो उसके पीछे जो भी छोड़ जाता है, यानी उसके पैसे, उसका घर, उसका सामान, उसकी तिजारत, उसका बिजनेस, उसकी गाड़ी, ये जो सब कुछ है उसको तरका कहते हैं. So all this is the estate. Everything the deceased leaves behind, his belongings, his wealth, his money, his savings, his house, his car, his business, everything is regarded as his estate. Now, what do we do with his estate? Say a person passed away. What's the order? What do you do with his money? So there are 4 steps you have to follow, and you have to go in order of the way we will discuss. So this is the order in which you have to deal with the estate of the deceased. First and foremost, the first thing you have to do is you have to cover the funeral costs of the deceased. So सबसे पहले मय्यत के माल में से उसके कफन दफन का खर्चा निकालेंगे. So this is everything, okay? Everything. جميع ما يحتاجه الميت حتى القبر. Everything the mayyit is in need of until he is buried in the grave. So all the procedures and everything you need, all types of expenses you need for the deceased to get him to the grave. Okay? For example, as soon as he's passed away, now you need to arrange for his ghusl. So whatever the cost of ghusl is, whatever the bathing cost is, okay, generally it happens in the masjid, whatever the fees of the masjid are, okay, and then the soaps and all other cleaning agents, okay, all these things, we put camphor and all the other products which we apply on the mayyit, the cost of all this. Thereafter, after we've done ghusl, okay, his kafan, the mayyit's kafan, this also needs to be purchased. And with regards to the kafan, the teachings of Islam are that the kafan should not be too expensive and not too cheap. Okay, not too cheap and not too expensive. It should be just enough, okay, a standard quality that you can wrap the mayyit in and it won't rip very easily. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he was passing away and they were getting his, while he was still in his deathbed, he was about to pass away, and he gave a wasiyah. He said to the people who were around him that make sure you do not be extravagant in my kafan. Make sure you're not extravagant in my kafan, because he said the living people are more worthy of better clothing than the deceased. फरमाया कि मय्यत तो जो है अभी कफन पहन कर जो है वो तो कब्र के अंदर चला जाएगा. फरमाया कि बहुत ज़्यादा महंगा कपड़ा इस्तेमाल मत करना कफन के लिए, इसलिए कि जो जिंदा हज़रात है वो ज़्यादा मुस्तहिक है अच्छे कपड़े के. So the kafan, okay, the standard quality kafan, you should buy the kafan, and this again will be taken from the wealth of the deceased. So before anything else, before anyone share, before getting rid of any debts, clearing any debts, these are the first things you'll use the money for. Bathing costs, okay, the shroud, the kafan. Thereafter, the coffin, okay, in Preston, it is a requirement that you have to bury the mayyit in the coffin. So you have to purchase the coffin. Thereafter, if there's a cost of transportation from the masjid or from the house to the qabristan, okay, this can also be taken from the deceased wealth. Thereafter, okay, buying the grave, okay, buying the plot of land. This also is quite a cost. So this will also be taken from the wealth of the deceased, the cost of the qabr, the plot of land. Thereafter, any paperwork, any paperwork which is carried out, this will also be taken. If there's a cost for this, it will be taken from the wealth of the deceased. Similarly, those brothers, who dig the grave and they do the digging and the rest of it, generally they have a charge also, the cemetery fees. This again can be taken from the wealth of the deceased. So everything, everything from when he passes away until he has been buried inside his grave, all these types of funeral costs, they can be taken from the wealth of the deceased. तो ये जो तमाम खर्चे हैं कफन दफन के गुस्ल के और जो है ज़मीन खरीदने के, वो सब पैसे जो है मय्यत के माल में से लिए जाएंगे. सबसे पहले जो है मय्यत के माल में से ये खर्चा निकाला जाएगा. Now, if an individual, this is the masla, that you should take it or you can take it from the wealth of the deceased. However, if one of the inheritors or someone else, many times it's a friend, or one of the children, the son, the daughter, the husband, the wife, one of the parents was still surviving, if they wish to take the kharja, if they wish to take this whole cost on their shoulders, then this is also perfectly fine. This is also perfectly fine, and nothing will be taken in this scenario from the wealth of the deceased. तो अगर कोई आदमी जो है या तो जो है वारिसिन में से कोई या एक दोस्त अहबाब में से कोई ये पूरा खर्चा बर्दाश्त करना चाहता है, तो वो ये खर्चा दे सकते हैं और जो है इस सिनारियो में और इस सूरत हाल में मय्यत के माल में से कोई चीज़ निकाली नहीं जाएगी. So this is the first avenue or the first place in which you use the wealth of the deceased in. You use it to cover the funeral costs. And like I put in that box in the corner, you can take this from the entire wealth. It's not that only 1/2 or 1/3 or 1/4 of the wealth should be kept aside for the funeral costs. Say the funeral cost comes to about 3,000-4,000. Generally it's about 3,000-4,000 pounds. So if it comes to around 3,000-4,000 pounds, and this is only the amount of money which the deceased has left, then all of the money will be used in this and there will be nothing left for the inheritors. So the first right is you use it for funeral costs. Thereafter, after you've covered the funeral costs, the next step is you will have to use that money left behind by the deceased to get rid of all his debts. If the deceased has left any debts, his wealth first and foremost will be used to clear his debts. तो आपने तजहीज़ और तकफीन का खर्चा निकाल लिया. उसके बाद अगर माल बचता है तो वारिसीन को देने से पहले या ये कि वसीयत को पूरी करने से पहले सबसे दूसरे नंबर पर यह होगा कि आपको मय्यत के कर्जे ख़त्म करने पड़ेंगे. मय्यत ने जो भी पैसा छोड़ा है उसके कर्जों को चुकाने में आपको खर्च करना पड़ेगा. So the second avenue where you will use the wealth of the deceased is you will clear his debts. Now when I say debts, debts are money which he owes to other people. Money which he owes, which is borrowed from someone, he's not yet paid back. There's records. Generally when a person will pass away, he will have in his records, in his phone, in his notebook, or written somewhere, he'll have a record if he owes money to people. And just as a side note here, that if we do take money to borrow from people, we should make sure we write it down. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this in the Quran. إِذَا تَدَايَنْتُمْ بِدَيْنٍ إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ مُسَمًّى فَاكْتُبُوهُ. When you take money to borrow from someone, make sure you write it down. You should write it down, you should sign it, and you should get the person who you've borrowed the money from, you should get him to sign it. So both the debtor and the creditor both should sign this agreement. And also, the ulama also say that each one of the parties, they should also show this agreement to a survivor, someone else in the family. Just in the case that if one of these two pass away, then they also have a record that our father borrowed money from so and so person, and the other party, they should also sell someone in the family so they have a record that so and so owes money to our father. Okay, so you should have both parties should write this down, just so there's no disagreements, just so there's no disputes later on. The best thing is to be very, very clear. You should write all these down. And the second point is a very important one. Okay, debts owed to people, or the debts in which you can use the deceased wealth to, to clear the debts. However, the fidya of your missed fasts and the fidya of your missed salah, many people question that can we take money from the deceased wealth because he's missed X number of fasts and he's missed X number of salah. So can we take money from his estate to pay for his fidya, for his fast and his salah? The answer is no, you can't. You cannot take wealth from the deceased estate just to pay for his fidya, for his fast and his salah which he missed. This was his issue, and he was supposed to do qada of these whilst he was alive. Now if he's passed away and he's left behind so many fasts and he's left behind so much salah, and he's not left a wasiyah, okay, I'm talking about in the normal scenario when he's not left a will. Nobody from the inheritors, none of the inheritors are obliged, okay, to pay for his fidya of his missed fast and his missed salah. When I say debts, you cannot use the estate of the deceased to clear these type of debts, because these are regarded as debts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this is between the deceased and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to deal with it. This is why when we are alive and fit and healthy, if we have any qada salah, if we have any qada fasts, we should at the first opportunity make up for this qada salah and make up for this qada fast, because after we've passed away, okay, and we've not left a will, then our inheritors are not obliged to take any money out to pay for our fidya. Okay, and over here, I'd also like to mention this point that sometimes, okay, in these types of moments we become emotional. Okay, we become emotional, and maybe some inheritors may pressurize one of the other inheritors that how can you ask for your share, whereas you know that mom or dad had so many fasts or so many namazis which they didn't read. We should be worrying about, rather than our share, we should be worrying about paying for the missed fast and the missed salah. If you're so worried, okay, pay from your own pocket. You're not allowed, when the deceased has passed away and now it becomes daraka, now it becomes estate, now you're not allowed without, okay, the happiness and the consent of all other inheritors, without any pressurizing, you're not allowed to take out any money for their fidya. So this is something which is very important to know कि आप जो है फिदिये के लिए मय्यत के माल में से उसने रोज़े नमाज छोड़े हैं तो उसका मामला, उसको वसीयत करनी चाहिए थी या उसको अपनी ज़िंदगी के अंदर ही जो है मामला उसको ख़त्म कर लेना चाहिए था, उसको क़ज़ा कर लेनी चाहिए थी, उसको ज़िंदगी में फिदिया दे देना चाहिए था, उसने नहीं दिया तो अब जो है किसी के ऊपर ज़रूरी नहीं है, वाजिब नहीं है कि उसके माल में से निकाले। हाँ, यहाँ भी वो बात है कि अगर तमाम वरसा खुशी से, रज़ामंदी से ऐसा सोचे कि चलो जो है हम सबसे पहले माल में से, हमें मालूम है कि इतने साल उन्होंने नमाज अदा नहीं की थी, इतने साल के रोज़े नहीं रखे थे, चलो हम जो है हमारे पास तो पैसे हैं, हम पैसों में से सबसे पहले ये उनका फिदिया अदा कर देते हैं, तो बहुत अच्छी बात, बहुत ठीक है। अलबत्ता सबकी खुशी और रज़ामंदी ज़रूरी है, किसी एक पर भी दबाव डालना जायज़ नहीं है। And this is why generally, okay, at the time of janazah salah we hear announcements, okay, and if the surviving inheritors, they know, okay, that their father used to, or their deceased used to lend money from, used to borrow money from people, okay, he used to have this habit, and maybe not everything is written down, it's good to make an announcement, okay, that if anyone is owed money from our deceased, then please do contact us, and you should try to get, clear the debts of the deceased, just so that he is not held in his cover. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wants such an important right, this is of another Muslim brother, that once Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was told, okay, Hazrat, there's a janazah ready, we request you to lead the salah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to the front and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam asked, Hal li sahibikum dayn? Is there any curse on the deceased? Has he left any debts behind? So the Sahaba, they said yes, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he has left debts behind. And he hasn't left, much wealth from which we can clear his debts. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what did he say? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Sallu ala sahibikum. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam walked away and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, you pray namaz on him. I'm not going to pray namaz on him. Why? Because Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam found out that he had debts remaining on other people, to explain to the people how important it is to repay debts. How severe it is not to repay debts. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not pray Salatul Janazah. And then the Sahaba, being the Sahaba, one of the Sahabi, he stood up from the congregation. I said, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I do not want him to be deprived from your namaz, so I will be a guarantor for his debts. You pray namaz on him. So then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam turned around and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he prayed janazah salah on this deceased. So if, again, the entire remaining wealth, it goes in fulfilling the debts, ये मय्यत ने जितना भी पैसा छोड़ा है, अगर उसका तमाम पैसा जो है वो कर्ज को अदा करने में चला जाए, तो आपको जो है पूरा पैसा उसी में सर्व करना पड़ेगा. यहाँ भी जो है इस शक्ल में भी वर्थ आपको कुछ मिलेगा नहीं. So let's say, for example, we have Zayd. Okay, may Allah give him a long life. Amen. Zayd, he leaves behind 10,000 pounds. Okay, Zayd leaves behind 10,000 pounds. He owes money, okay, to Ahmed 3,000 pounds. This is the everyday debt. Okay, he borrowed money from Ahmed for 3,000 pounds. And also, look, another example of a debt. He bought a car, okay, for 5,000 pounds, and he still didn't pay for that car. Okay, so now he's got a debt not only of 3,000, he's got an outstanding payment on his car. So I've just put a car as an example. If you have anything outstanding which needs to be paid for, okay, sometimes it may be a letter from HMRC, okay, tax credit overpayment. Sometimes it may be a letter from another company, an overpayment or underpayment which you need to pay back. So all these are debts. Okay, all these, sometimes, many a times, credit card payments. The deceased, okay, he used to use a credit card and he passed away without paying back all the money. So all this will be regarded as a debt. Okay, you have to clear all these debts, these credit cards, these HMRC bills, all these types of debts. Okay, you will have to clear before distributing the wealth. And if you are unsure, okay, you should consult the ulama. If this is a debt or not, you should consult the ulama. So 3,000 and 5,000. So his total outstanding debt is 8,000 pounds. Okay, so the inheritors, okay, they should look at the 10,000 pounds. They should first get rid of that 8,000 pound debt, and thereafter, whatever is remaining, that will be shared amongst the inheritors. So not 10,000 pounds. Firstly, you clear the debts, and then the remaining 2,000 pounds. This is only what the inheritors will benefit from. Thereafter, the third step, after you've covered the funeral costs, okay, you've cleared all the debts on the deceased, the third step is now you will fulfill any wasiyah, okay, any bequests that the deceased has made. तो तीसरे नंबर पर आपने जो है तजहीज़ और तकफीन का खर्चा कर लिया, आपने तमाम उसके कर्ज अदा कर दिए और अभी भी पैसे बचते हैं, तो उसके बाद नंबर आता है वसीयत का, कि मय्यत ने अगर कोई वसीयत की है तो उसको नाफिज की जाएगी. अलबत्ता ये इतना खुला हुआ नहीं है जितना हम समझते हैं. This is not as open as we hear, that now you will use the money to pay for any or fulfill any wasiyah, any bequests this deceased has left behind. Number one, that will and that bequest has to be शरई compliant. सबसे पहली चीज जो देखना जरूरी है वो ये है कि वो शरई वसीयत हो. मतलब ऐसा ना हो कि वो आदमी ने किसी हराम चीज और किसी गलत चीज में पैसे देने के लिए वसीयत की है. So first and foremost, if the deceased has wrote a will, okay, he's made a bequest, to give X pounds of money to a haram charity or to a haram avenue, then obviously we cannot practice upon this wasiyah, because we cannot give money to a sinful activity. And thereafter, there are two golden rules. Okay, there are two golden rules which you need to keep in mind, and many people, they make a mistake here. That these two rules are necessary with regards to wasiyah, and that is number one, wasiyah is only allowed in 1/3 of the estate. When we talked about the funeral costs and when we talked about the debts, I said, okay, we put in the corner that you can take from the entire wealth. Whatever wealth there is, you can take to pay for the funeral costs and to pay for the debts. However, when it comes to the wasiyah, you will only use 1/3 of the deceased's wealth to fulfill his wasiyah. So let's say, for example, a person, he left in his will, okay, he was unaware of the mas'ala, and he passed away, and he said, give all my money to the masjid. He said, after he passed away, give all my money to the masjid. Can you practice upon this wasiyah? You can't practice upon this wasiyah in its entirety. Yes, let's say, for example, he's left 9,000 pounds, okay, then he said, give all my money to the masjid. You can only give 3,000 pounds to the masjid. You can only give 1/3 of his 9k to the masjid, so you can only give 3k to the masjid. Because wasiyah is only allowed in 1/3. Okay, wasiyah is only allowed in 1/3. And similarly, when a person reaches maradul maut, आदमी मरजुल वफात में चला जाता है, यानी that illness in which he passes away. So generally that terminal illness, when a person, you know, everyone knows that he's only a chand din ka mehman hai. So that's maradul wafat. So in maradul wafat, when a person is in his fatal illness, when he's in his terminal illness, again, he does not have full control over his full wealth. When he enters maradul wafat, when he enters this fatal illness, he only has control and authority over 1/3 of his wealth. Therefore, a person, when he reaches maradul wafat, he can't say, give all my money to the charity, give all my money to the masjid. Again, in your fatal illness, you only have authority over 1/3 of your wealth, and only 1/3 of your money can be given to your wishes. Thereafter, the rest of the 2/3 are for the inheritance. तो आदमी को जो है जिंदगी, आदमी बहुत सारे हजरत जो है ये इसलिए करते हैं क्योंकि वो पीछे देखते हैं कि जो है मेरी औलाद में और मेरे पीछे रहने वालों में कोई दम नहीं है, यानी उनके लिए पैसा छोड़ने में कोई फायदा नहीं है, वो उसको गुनाह में इस्तेमाल करेंगे। तो वो ऐसी वसीयत करके लिख जाते हैं कि मेरा तमाम पैसा जो है ना मस्जिद में दे दो, कम से कम जो है मेरे लिए सत्ते झाड़ियाँ तो बने। तो आदमी को अगर इसका शौक हो तो अपनी हयाती में करना। If you really want to do this, there is no limits to giving to the masjid or to giving to any good cause whilst you are alive. Okay, you can give all your estate and you can give all your money to whoever you wish. So if you have any noble intentions, you should do so not only before you die, before you enter your fatal illness. Okay, so 1/3. So the first rule is wasiyah is only allowed in 1/3, even if the deceased has made a wasiyah of his entire wealth. Okay, the survivors and the inheritors, they will only be allowed to give 1/3 in whatever this person has bequeathed for. And secondly, another very important rule, which many people again make mistakes in, is that wasiyah is not allowed for an inheritor. Okay, so a person who is already inheriting from your money, the Shari'i inheritors, generally who are they? Your son, your daughter, your wife, or for the wife, her husband, your parents, mom and dad. Generally, these people are your inheritors. And in all cases, if there is a son, if there is a daughter, if there is a father, if there is a mother, if there is, a wife, a husband, these people will always get a share of inheritance. These ones I've mentioned, children, parents, and spouses, okay, they will never ever not inherit. So that means, okay, you can not leave a bequest and a wasiyat for any of these people, because they're already going to get from your share. Okay? So this is why This is why, if you want to give, if you see, okay, generally we all know that when there's a wife, okay, your surviving wife and children, the wife will only get 1/8 compared to the son. The son will get much more than the wife. Okay, the son will get much more than the wife. Sometimes triple the wife the son will get. So if a person feels that I want my wife, to get more than my son, then again, like I just said, give it in your lifetime. You can give whatever you want in your lifetime. If you leave it for after your death, even if you write a will and you say after my death, okay, I want 50% to go to my wife and the rest to my other inheritors, this wasiyah will be void, and it will be impermissible for the survivors to practice upon this wasiyah. Why? Because your wife is already your inheritor. You cannot bequeath for your inheritor because she is already getting from your share. Okay? However, okay, there is one exception, and that is if the deceased has made a wasiyah for one of the inheritors who are already getting a share, who are already getting a share from the Quran, from what the Quran has stipulated. But still the deceased leaves in his will a share. If all the other inheritors, okay, they are happy, and without any, again, pressurizing, they give consent that yes, okay, our father, he wasn't meant to leave a wasiyah for an inheritor, but we all give consent and we all permit that, mom can take whatever dad has bequeathed for her, then this is permitted. Okay, so everyone's permission is necessary. If one, एक भी उनमें से उठे, मसलन जो ये 5 बेटे हैं और 4 बेटे खुशी से कहें कि आप ले जाओ, एक बेटा भी कहे कि नहीं मुझे मेरा हिस्सा चाहिए, तो ये बेटे का हक है और ऐसा कहने में उसको गुनाह नहीं मिलता है. Okay, he is not sinful. Many people, they pressurize, okay, because it's a very emotional time, okay, and people are in a very emotional state. If one of the sons or one of the any inheritors, they ask for their share, they are fully in their right to do so. Okay, you cannot pressurize them. You can't say, why don't you think about mom? Why don't you think about sister? Why don't you think about this person? Why don't you think about that person? It's their shari'i right. They can do whatever they want. Okay? So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in this hadith, la wasiyyata li warithin, you cannot make wasiyyah for your warith, for your inheritors who are already inheriting, except for illa an yujizaha al-warathatu, unless the other inheritors, they grant you consent. Okay? So the first step was funeral costs, the second step was debts, and the third step is you will use the money and fulfill any wasiyyah, any wills this individual left behind, but only from 1/3. Make sure it's not to any inheritor unless all of the inheritors give consent. Many times what happens is a deceased will say that after I pass away, okay, I want to give my house to my daughter. I want to give my car to this son of mine. I want to put the business on the name of my brother. Okay? After they pass away, if they don't do it in their lifetime, they write in their will, I want all this to happen after I die, you can't practice upon this. Okay? If all the other inheritors are not in agreement, you can't practice upon this. You have to distribute it according to Islamic shares. So let's take an example, okay, of a correct wasiyah. So an individual, again, he's left £10,000. Okay, his funeral costs were £1,000. So first and foremost, you will put aside £1,000. You will spend £1,000 in his funeral costs. Thereafter, he had debts of £3,000. Okay, he had £3,000 worth of debts. So you have to first and foremost pay that £3,000 and clear his debts. So 10,000, 1,000 was used, so we're on 9,000. Then 3,000 was used for debts, we're on 6,000. Okay. Now he made a wasiyah of 2,000. So remember, he has £6,000 after debts. Now, is this wasiyah of 2,000 valid? Is this wasiyah valid? Yes. Okay, it's valid. Why? Because 2,000 is within 1/3 of 6,000. Okay, 2, 4, 6. Yeah. So £2,000 is 1/3 of £6,000. So in this scenario, this wasiyah of £2,000 is valid, and if this individual has said give this £2,000 to this charity or this cause, then it is fully valid, and now you will send this £2,000 to whatever charity this individual has said. After that, okay, we had £6,000, £2,000 have gone in wasiyah. Now the remaining £4,000, okay, will be distributed to the inheritors. So this is a example, this is a case study of a permissible and a valid wasiyah. Now let's take a look at an impermissible or invalid wasiyah. A person again has £10,000, okay, and £1,000 has gone in his funeral costs. तो एक आदमी है 10,000 छोड़कर इंतकाल हो गया है उसका, 1,000 जो है कफन दफन का खर्चा हो गया, तो सबसे पहले हमने वो निकाल दिया, बाकी रह गए 9,000. Okay, a person is left with £9,000. Now he has made a wasiyah that give £5,000 in charity. Okay, give £5,000 of my wealth in charity. This wasiyah is void. Why? Because £5,000 is more than 1/3 of his estate. Okay, he's only got £9,000 after the funeral costs. He's only got £9,000, and from £9,000, how much is a third? £3,000. So he can only give wasiyah until £3,000. Anything beyond is not allowed. So एक आदमी है उसने 9,000 पाउंड जो है उसके बाकी है कफन दफन के बाद, और उसने वसीयत की कि 5,000 जो है अल्लाह के रास्ते में ले देना. तो इस पर अमल करना जायज नहीं है. क्यों? इसलिए कि 5,000 जो है वो 9,000 के तिहाई से ज्यादा है. सिर्फ और सिर्फ आप 9,000 का तिहाई दे सकते हैं, और 9,000 का तिहाई वो 3,000 है. तो 3,000 आप देंगे, और 3,000 आपने 9,000 में से निकाल लिए, बाकी 6,000 आप जो है वरसा के अंदर तकसीम करेंगे. So after that £3,000, the remaining 6K, okay, will be distributed amongst the inheritors. And afterwards, okay, you've done the funeral costs, you've done the debts, you cleared the debts, you've got rid of all the wasiyah, you've paid off all his wasiyah. The final, okay, before we go on to that, before we go to the final step, just a correct version of the previous wasiyah, but that, like I said, we'll only give £3,000, okay, and the remaining £6,000 will be for the inheritors. Now the final step, the fourth step, after everything else is done, is now you will, okay, whatever is left, you will have to distribute the money to the Shari'i inheritors. Now why I say Shari'i inheritors is because Sharia, and like I said yesterday, the Ruku, yusikumullahu fi awladikum, the Quran has stipulated exactly who will receive how much. Okay, we cannot determine who will receive. We can't choose. हम जो है खुद ये हम इख्तियार हमारा नहीं है कि हम कहें कि इसको देंगे, इसको देंगे, इसको नहीं देंगे. ये शरीयत ने, कुरान ने हमारे लिए खुद तजवीज़ कर दिया है कि इसको देना है, इसको देना है, इसको देना है, और इसको नहीं देना है. और हम ये भी हमारा इख्तियार नहीं है कि चलो इन हजरात को देना है, इसको हम इतना देंगे, इसको इतना देंगे, इसका ये भी हमारे इख्तियार में नहीं है. Nothing is in our hands. Okay, the people who we give, the inheritors who we need to give, that's also mentioned in the Quran, and how much we give, what fraction, what percentage we give to each one of these inheritors. This is all documented in the glorious Quran. We cannot give a fraction more, we cannot give a fraction less. Okay, and for this, I'm not going to go into, how much the wife receives, how much the husband receives, how much the son receives, because this is not clear cut. Okay, every single scenario will have to be taken respectively and differently, because in many cases, okay, the son will receive this much and the daughter will receive this much. In some cases, the father will receive this much, and in other circumstances, the father will receive less. Sometimes, in some cases, the wife will receive 1/8. In some cases, the wife will receive 1/4. In some scenarios, the husband will receive a half, and in some scenarios, the husband will receive a quarter. So it's all very, very, delicate. That's why whenever we need to solve these kind of inheritance masail, okay, after the other three things we can do ourselves. The funeral costs we can do ourselves. Okay, the clearing any debts we can do ourselves. If there's any wasiyah, if there's any bequest, we can fulfill that ourselves. However, when it comes to this point, it's best to consult an alim or a mufti, okay, who knows what he's doing, to make sure the Shari'i shares are distributed according to the Islamic way of inheritance. The Quran has very clearly mentioned them, and inshallah an alim or mufti will be able to guide you how to split those shares exactly. Over here, a very important point, that the inheritance will not and cannot be distributed according to non-Islamic law. Okay, many people they distribute the wealth un-Islamically. Okay, we all know wife gets 50% in other laws. Okay, but Islamically, if you have, this is why I'm going to come on to this later. If you have it all written down that I want my money and my wealth to be distributed Islamically, then there won't be any problem. Okay, but if you haven't got a written document ready, if you haven't got a Islamic will ready, when I mean a will over here, I don't mean that wasiyah, that bequest one. I mean when I say Islamic will, okay, you have a document which says that I want my wealth to be distributed Islamically, yeah, then you won't have a problem. Okay, even in this country, you won't have a problem distributing that wealth Islamically. You're allowed to distribute it Islamically. This is why I'm going to come on to you at the end. There are templates available out there, which, you know, everything's ready-made. Okay, it's checked by solicitors and it's checked by Mufti and Kiram as well. All you have to do is acquire that template, okay, fill it in, it's very straightforward, have 2 witnesses, get them to sign it, and then inshallah you have no problem. Otherwise, okay, if you sometimes in some scenarios, when you have to, especially when the figures are large, you know, you have to run around with solicitors and try and get everything done. It's very difficult and it's quite a hectic thing to do. Okay, this is why we should have everything written and everything documented and everything ready, so that we don't have problems later on. Okay, so we have to distribute it all Islamically the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has explained to us. तो जितने हिस्से कुरान के अंदर आए हैं, जिसके जितने हिस्से हैं, उसके मुताबिक जो है हमें उसके हिस्से तकसीम करने पड़ेंगे. Now, many people ask this question, yeah, that we see, and it is a well-known fact, that when a deceased leaves behind sons and daughters, okay, the sons, they get double of the share of the daughter. The Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ने फरमाया है कि लिज़्ज़करी मिस्लु हज़्ज़िल उन्सयैन, कि अगर किसी ने जो है बेटे भी छोड़े हैं और बेटियां भी छोड़ी है, तो बेटों को बेटियों का डबल मिलेगा. बेटों को बेटियों का डबल मिलेगा. तो अगर मिसाल के तौर पर जो है किसी बाप ने जो है 3000 पाउंड छोड़े हैं और एक बेटा है एक बेटी है, 3000 पाउंड छोड़े हैं, एक बेटा है और एक बेटी है, तो ऐसा नहीं कि दोनों को 1500 ऐसा नहीं होगा, बल्कि बेटे को 2000 मिलेंगे और बेटी को 1000. Okay, so if the father has left behind 3000 pounds and he has a son and he has a surviving daughter, it won't be equal. That the son will get 1500 and the daughter will get 1500. Rather, the Quranic rule is that the son will get 2000 and the daughter will get 1000. Okay, so the question arises that why? Why does the son, or why do the men get double of the woman? So the answer is, okay, no ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of wisdoms. And the wisdom, 1 or 2 wisdoms which we can understand, okay, is that Islam and Sharia, the burden of spending and the burden of maintenance, when I say maintenance over here, I mean spending on your family. So the burden of spending and the burden of maintenance and the burden of earning, okay, bringing income inside the home, the breadwinner, Islam and Sharia has made the man of the house responsible for this. तो कमाने की जिम्मेदारी किसकी है? औरत की नहीं है. कमाने की जिम्मेदारी घर के अंदर मर्द की है. So let's take right from the beginning, let's take the cycle of a male. Okay, so this individual, okay, when he grows up, until he's baligh, his father is responsible. After a son is baligh, after you are baligh, after a male is baligh, okay, the father is Islamically no longer responsible. Okay, a father is no longer Islamically responsible. This child will have to, this male, he will have to go and look for his own means of provision. However, okay, generally many fathers, until the son starts working and starts getting to his feet, until then, the fathers look after their children, but this is an ihsan. Okay, this is a favor of the fathers on the sons. This is not a right. The right of the father is only to provide for the son until he becomes baligh. After he becomes baligh, it's his own responsibility. So look at the son. As soon as he becomes baligh, it's his responsibility to look for his own food and water. It's his responsibility to look after his own shelter. It is his responsibility to find his own job. Okay, now it's his own responsibility. Now this youngster, he gets married. It's his responsibility not only to provide for himself, but it is his responsibility to also provide for his wife. When a person gets married, okay, it's his responsibility not only to provide for himself, he has to also provide for his wife. So he has to earn double for himself and his wife. The wife is not responsible for bringing money inside the home. The husband is responsible. The wife is not even responsible of getting her own clothing. The husband is responsible. The wife is not even responsible of her own food and drink. The husband is responsible. So this male, okay, who was responsible of himself, now he gets married, he becomes a young man. Now he's not only responsible for himself, he's responsible for him and his wife. Now, as the years pass on, okay, they have children. Now again, the kharcha, the maintenance of the children is on the shoulders of the husband, on the shoulders of the man. Now he doesn't now only have to provide for himself and his wife, he has to provide for his children. He has to provide for his children. Males we've already discussed. If he has a daughter, he has to provide for her all the way until she becomes married. He has to provide for this daughter. And then this man, he grows older, and now it so happens that in the unfortunate scenario, his daughter, after becoming married, okay, she comes back to the house. Maybe in the event of death, in the event of divorce, she comes back to the house of the father. Now this father is elderly now, he's an elderly man. However, the daughter has come back in his custody. Again, the man is responsible for looking after the daughter. So in every walk of life, the male is responsible for income and spending upon the family. Now let's take a look at the female. When she is when she's born, when she's a young girl, who's responsible for her? Her mother. The father. The father is responsible of this young daughter. Not only until she becomes baligh, until she gets married. Until she becomes married, it is the responsibility of the father to look after her. Now when she gets married, okay, immediately the responsibility transfers to the husband. Now the husband has to look after this woman. Okay, the husband has to look after this woman until death. And if the husband passes away, or like I said, divorce takes place, and she comes back to the house of her parents, again the father is responsible. Or if the father has passed away, her brothers or uncles of the family, elders of the family are responsible to look after this woman. In no walk of life, a woman is responsible for her own kharcha. So then if you look at it from this aspect, even this one share, 1/3, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given her is more than enough. Why? Because she is never responsible for her own kharcha. She's never responsible for own maintenance. उसको कभी खर्चा करने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं पड़ती है. इसलिए कि जब वो छोटी है तो उसका बाप जब शादी कर लेती है तो उसका शौहर जब शादी टूट जाती है या शौहर इंतकाल कर जाता है तो उसके बड़े भाई उसको संभाल लेते हैं. इसीलिए जो है चूँकि बहुत ज़्यादा बोझ जो है मर्द हज़रात के ऊपर है, इसलिए मर्द हज़रात को डबल मिलेगा. तो the objection that will be thrown in your faces will be, why do men get double? This objection, subhanallah, this objection will never ever be thrown to your face, okay, that in Islam, why do men have to provide for women? This will never be thrown to your face. But it will only be the other way around, that why do men get double of the women? You should look at it from both angles, and when you look at it from both angles, it makes perfect sense, and it is exactly just what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destined. Okay, just finishing off now, some mistakes we generally make in our society. Number one, okay, we delay the, firstly, before delay, we don't distribute it at all. Okay, this is a very, very big sin. We do not pay importance to distribute inheritance. बहुत सारी मर्तबा ये गलती करते हैं कि हम जो है तकसीम ही नहीं करते हैं मीरास को. साल हर साल जो है ये जायदाद और माल और घर वगैरह पड़ा ही रहता है, हम तकसीम नहीं करते हैं। तो जिसके बस में ये तकसीम करने का जो है इख्तियार है उसको गुना मिलेगा। जल्द अज जल्द उनको तकसीम करना ज़रूरी है। बहुत सारी मरतबा जो है मसलन किसी और कंट्री के अंदर जायदाद होती है और वहाँ कोई जो है एक बेटा वहाँ होता है और दूसरे बेटे यहाँ होते हैं, तो वहाँ जो है मसलन बाप का इंतकाल हो गया और जायदाद बेटे के पास है और चूंकि वो अकेला वहाँ है तो वो साल साल उस घर में या उस जायदाद में रहता है और उससे जो है फ़ायदा उठाता है और मीरास की तकसीम की कोई बात ही नहीं करता है। ये साल जो फ़ायदा उठा रहा है वो हराम का खा रहा है, उसको गुनाह मिल रहा है। इसलिए कि जो है बाप के इंतकाल के बाद ये जायदाद उसकी नहीं थी, उसमें सबका हिस्सा है, सबसे इजाज़त ली है, सबको हिस्से दिए हैं, सबके हिस्से गायब किए हैं। तो सबसे पहले ये ज़रूरी है कि जैसे ही जल्द अज जल्द, as soon as possible, after the mourning period, after the family they come back to their senses after the mourning period, the first thing you should do is you should sit down and have a talk about distributing the inheritance. And again, okay, what generally happens is because this is an emotional moment, if one of the inheritors they start to talk about distributing the inheritance, okay, they bring this topic up, the others will say, are you not worried about the deceased? Are you just worried about his wealth? Are you just worried about his estate? Are you just worried about what you're going to get? Again, this is incorrect, because the distribution of inheritance should be done as soon as possible, just so that you're not, devouring another person's rights. Thereafter, the second mistake we make is we distribute it not according to Islam, according to our whims and desires. Okay, we give this person more share, we give this person a lesser share. Again, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in the hadith, من اقتطع شبرا من الأرض ظلما طوقه الله إياه يوم القيامة من سبع أرضين. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, whosoever takes a handspan, this much of land, okay, wrongfully without being rightful owner of it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make him wear, i.e. strangle him with a collar consisting of 7 lands. Okay, whoever takes one piece of land, this much handspan of land without being the rightful owner, on the day of Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will strangle him with a collar made of 7 lands. Okay, the third evil is depriving and shaming sisters. Okay, this is generally a culture back home. बहनों का हक जो है नहीं देते हैं, तो जिस तरह भाइयों का भी हक है, बहनों का भी हक है, जिस तरह अभी बयान किया कि जिस तरह बेटों का हक है, बेटियों का भी हक है। बहुत सारी मर्तबा जो है फोन करके बहनों को पूछा जाता है कि क्या आपको जो है आपका हक चाहिए या आप माफ कर देंगे। बहुत सारी मर्तबा इस तरह जो है सवाल हमने खुद सुने कि क्या आप जो है अपना हक लेंगे या आप माफ कर देंगे। What kind of question is this? Okay, you're putting her under a lot of shame. How can you say to someone, do you want your father's share, or will you just give it to us, or will you just forgive it? Okay, obviously, if the person's got a bit of haya and sharam, they're going to be ashamed to ask for their right. They're going to be ashamed to ask for their right. So we shouldn't ask them, it's their right, we should give it to them. बल्कि तरीका ये है कि ये लो आपका हिस्सा है, आपको जो करना उसके साथ करो. Okay, we should give them their share. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Man farra min mirathi warithihi qata'a Allahu mirathahu min al-jannati yawm al-qiyamah." Whoever runs away from giving a share of inheritance to a worthy inheritor, whoever deprives an inheritor of their share, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deprive you of your share of Jannah. जो अपने वारिस को सही हिस्सा नहीं देता है, बहन को महरूम करता है, फुलां को महरूम करता है, उसका हिस्सा काट करके नहीं देता है, तो अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला भी जन्नत से उसका हिस्सा काट कर फेंक देंगे. So that's why we should be very, very careful of not depriving anyone from their share. Okay, using the deceased, another mistake we make is we use the deceased items without permission. Okay, when a person passes away, let's say a family lives together, father, mother, children, they live together, and let's say the father passes away. Everything in that, and the father, the house belongs to the father. Everything in that house, everything in that house and everything inside that house, it now belongs to everyone. Okay, it's now a shared ownership between the wife and the children. So much so that, little items, not only the clothing, each pair of jubba, each pair of trousers, each pair of socks, okay, the utensils, the cups and the mugs inside the home, all these little tiny minute things, they all become shared. You cannot pick up a pair of jubba, okay, and say, oh, this fits my brother, let's just give it to him. You can't do this, okay? So many people, okay, again, like I said, it's a very emotional time. So maybe the wife may say, that this jubba will fit, so and so person, so will fit my brother, let me give it to him. You're not allowed to. You have to ask all the other inheritors that, are you happy you have a share in this jubba? Are you happy that I'm going to give this jubba to my brother? Okay, so, cutlery. You see cutlery, let me give this, the wife says, let me give this cutlery to my mother. She's not allowed to. Even in one spoon, she has to ask permission from all the inheritors. So as soon as someone dies, whoever is inheritor of that deceased person, okay, they will become shared owners of everything the deceased have left behind, and now they have to distribute it Islamically. That's why when it's generally not money, when it's a house, when the deceased have left the house, when it's left items, okay, how do you go about distributing 1/8, 1/6, 1/4? You should consult the ulama. Okay, there are ways around this. You should consult the ulama, and inshallah they'll guide you exactly how to distribute property and all of the belongings Islamically and correctly. Okay, disregarding minors. Okay, just because, like I said yesterday, just because the deceased have left a minor, a young child, that doesn't mean you don't need to give them their share. You have to keep their share safeguarded until they become baligh, and then give them their share after they become baligh. Just because a person is small, a minor, doesn't understand, doesn't mean you can take their wealth without their permission. And another mistake we make, okay, another common mistake is this problem of separate and joint ownership. Okay, many a times things are very, very ambiguous. But does this belong to the deceased or does it belong to the wife? Let me give you a classic example. A problem which we have many times is joint accounts. Okay, joint accounts. Because of the amount of cases we have with regards to joint accounts, many muftis, okay, they very highly discourage having joint accounts. Okay, they discourage joint accounts. Why? Because generally you have no hisab, that how much is the husband's, how much is the wife. And then when the husband passes away, there's a jagra, that how much is the wife's, how much was the husband. Now the sons are saying, no, we know that dad used to give almost everything inside, so about 95% of the joint account belongs to the dad. The wife will say, no, it's a joint account, so 50-50, half is mine, only half will go in inheritance. So you see, so many problems can occur if you have a joint account and there's no very clear hisab. That's why it's best, okay, that the husband has his own account, the wife has her own account, the children have their own account, just so that after the husband or the wife dies, it's clear exactly how much belongs to him, how much belongs to her, and how much should be distributed among the inheritors. So we should make everything very clear. In the home as well, we have many items. Let's say, for example, you purchased a car, and part of the car, okay, not exactly, we don't know the amount, part of the car, let's say the son has paid for, and part of it the father has paid for. Now we have no hisab. Maybe they were paying monthly. Some used to go from the father's account, some used to go from the son's account. The father passes away. Now again, dispute occurs. That who does the car belong to? We don't know exactly how much he paid and how much the son paid. Now how is the alim or the mufti meant to decide? Because there's no way of tracing exactly how much he paid and how much he paid. That's why it is our responsibility that when things are like, things are joint, things are shared, we should very clearly write down exactly how much is yours and how much is mine. And we should not shy away. One final point, we should not shy away from these kind of discussions. Sometimes when sons, they are worried about, how things will be distributed after the father's demise, they come to the father and they say, let's sort it all out. Exactly how much is yours? What's on your head? What's yours? Do you have any debts? Exactly what is recorded as your property? They just want some clarification, so there's no problems. And now the father becomes angry. You're just worried about my debt. You're just worried about my properties and my assets. So sometimes the father, the father becomes emotional. The father becomes angry. That you should have these kind of discussions because you're only worried about my debt. Okay, and similarly, when the parents have this discussion with the children shouldn't get emotional that why are you worried about your debt? Are you trying to tell us you're going to leave us? Okay, all these kinds of discussions, they are very, very important, and we'll only realize the importance of these conversations if things are not properly sorted out and one of the parties pass away, and then you'll be left in a mess, and it'll be very, very difficult to get rid of this mess. So we should try and make things very, very clear, and like I said, you can to make sure that there's no problem later on. You do have Islamic will templates available out there. Last year we mentioned this book, and we also distributed this book, Inheritance Islam, authored by my respected Sheikh and teacher Hazrat Maulana Salim Sahab. He has mentioned a lot of many things which I've said, many of the common mistakes which we make is listed there in this book, and at the end, okay, he's made a template, a 4-page template, okay, checked by muftis and checked by solicitors. All you have to do is fill that in, follow the procedure, have 2 witnesses, rip it out and keep it somewhere safe. If you fill that in and you have that will template with you, okay, then inshallah there'll be no problems. You want it to go to solicitors and you want it to go through any legal procedures, everything will be sorted. You'll be able to distribute your wealth Islamically. So this, if you can't get hold of the book, the template, not the book, but the template at the back, it's also online. So if you write, okay, Islamic will template IDA UK, okay, IDA UK, IDA stands for the Islamic Dawah Academy. So if you write IDA UK Islamic will template, okay, you'll find this online. It's there, you can print it out and you can fill it in. If you do this, inshallah, your wealth will be distributed Islamically. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the true understanding of the rules of inheritance, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the tawfiq to practice upon what has been said.